Welcome to episode 23 of the Animorphs Read-Along broadcast. Today we are talking about book 20, The Discovery, which is part 1 of a trilogy. I don't think it's too much of a stretch to call this the height of the Animorphs series. These 3 books are awesome. So the blue box, the box that gave them the morphing power, a super powerful tool in this war with the Yeerks, is back. They all assumed it had been destroyed, but apparently it hadn't, and it was actually just sitting there in the construction site waiting for some dumb kid to find it, and that dumb kid is David. David's kind of a punk. He's moved around a lot. He's always the new kid in school, and that's seemed to create kind of an attitude with him. Of course, Marco kind of has an attitude too, so the two of them just really don't get along. The first half of this book is the Animorphs trying to get the blue box from David. They try to steal it from him in Birdmorph, and it's basically just like a Three Stooges kind of catastrophe. There's no reason why this plan shouldn't have worked. It was just bad luck, bad timing, sloppiness, and they fail in their attempt to steal the box. David thinks if someone was trying to steal the box, it must be worth money, so he posts an ad on the internet describing the box, saying he'll sell it. And who comes a-knockin' but Visser 3. Marco and Axe do everything they can to stop this email. Once again, it's a little sloppy, it's a little bad luck. They should have been able to accomplish this, but they weren't. The email goes out, and very quickly, David's life is over. David's parents are both turned into controllers. The Yeerks know who he is, where he lives, and even though the Animorphs managed to escape with the box and with David, there's really no possibility of David ever having a normal life again, which sucks. The Animorphs are now faced with a really interesting decision. Do they make this kid, who is wrapped up in all this Yeerk stuff now, an Animorph, or do they leave him to his fate? This blue box is brimming with possibilities. If they can make more Animorphs, there's a chance they could win this war. Marco says himself, they could really fight instead of just maintaining. But bringing someone onto the team, especially someone they don't know, is a risky move. So they debate. Tobias thinks it would be wrong to write the kid off. Axe thinks it's too risky. Rachel wants the power to really kick the Yeerk butt. Marco's getting a bad vibe from David. In the end, they bring David on, and there's a new Animorph. The Animorphs is a very plot-driven story, but it's also very character-driven at the same time. Adding a new person to the mix is going to change the group dynamics and impact the story in a pretty big way. Obviously, we did add a new member to the team back in book 4, but this is book 20. We've had an established thing going for a while. Any change to that is going to feel really disruptive. But it's also going to make for some really interesting storytelling. David coming onto the team really shows us how much they've changed and grown. They have a ton of experience. They've learned so much. And David is at square one with all of this stuff. He's never morphed before. He's never been in a fight before. He's never had his life at risk before. David's presence also really highlights for me how lucky the Animorphs have been, that they all get along and they all work so well together. I mean, it sounds corny, but the foundation of the Animorphs is friendship and loyalty. They're not all best friends, but they all care about each other on some level. The Animorphs fight and get on each other's nerves and have conflict within their group, but all of that is always sort of underwritten by friendship and loyalty. There's a huge difference between Marco and Rachel bickering and the kind of fighting that David and Marco are doing in this book. You can feel that tension and that difference right away as soon as David joins the team. I don't want to overlook how rough David has it. I mean, he's lost both of his parents, he's lost his entire life in the blink of an eye, and now he has absolutely nothing, and he feels like he's being pushed around by a bunch of kids he doesn't know, telling him what to do. Now he's been thrust into a war, basically being forced to put his life on the line, and that's difficult. But, we've seen other people in really difficult situations, like, for instance, Tobias, and they haven't reacted as maliciously or as controversially as David is reacting. It's hard to know whether we as the reader are being too hard on David because he's a new Animorph. Marco clearly doesn't like the guy. He's kind of keeping track of all the signs of why we shouldn't like David. There's the cat named Megadeth, the cobra named Spawn. When he first morphs the golden eagle, he kills a seagull for no reason. When they're on the blade ship, he starts screaming and almost gets them all killed. And to a certain extent, all of that is understandable. I mean, he's new to all of this and once again has lost everything. But there's also something a little bit unsettling about it because now that they've brought him onto the team, there's no going back. When David's screaming on the blade ship, Cassie does something really interesting. She's trying to get David to morph the cockroach and he's scared because the morphing has just creeped him out, which, I mean, fair enough. But she says, "I know it's creepy, but it's better than being dead. Besides, we've all done it. Marco has done it. He's not screaming like a baby, is he? Aren't you as tough as Marco?" It's interesting because Cassie is usually the character who I would considered the least ruthless. But when it comes to life or death, she'll manipulate the hell out of the new boy in order to get him going. And I just kind of love that. All of this David stuff is kind of overshadowed by the fact that there is a massive international conference happening in the area, and Eric has told them that basically the Yeerks have a plan to infest all of these leaders. And if that happens, see you later, Earth. This book ends on a cliffhanger, kind of literally with them falling from the sky to their potential deaths. The story will continue in book 21. So yeah, those are all my thoughts about book 20, The Discovery. If you want to keep up with this read along, subscribe to this channel or follow me on Twitter, and I will be posting about book 21, The Threat, on Monday.